This is Ditch Diggers. Season number. I don't know. I don't know anymore. We're just coming to you.
We are eternal.
We are eternal. The eternal Ditch Diggers coming to you from the other plane of existence where things are not on fire all the time.
Only like 50% of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Ditch Diggers appear and ain't no wannabes here with some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked how they like before they get on the mic. To my left we got the mighty Mer Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host Ursula Vernon on the right, yeah, she's burning to recite a slime mold speech tonight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make your writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
Yeah, welcome to Quarterly Freelancer Taxes Are Due Time. That's part of why I was kind of frazzled this morning. So yeah, we're the Ditch Diggers. We aim to go twice a week, and I think this is our third or fourth episode this
I think
year.
You mean every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I meant, but it's not what I said. Anyway, I am Mer. I write and I live stream and I podcast and I edit and I do lots of things. And I'm with my dear friend Ursula, who does lots of other things too, but also you may know her as T. Kingfisher, recipient of 2 finalist Hugo nominations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it is as always an honor to be nominated, and it's really cool to see other people I know in the categories, and I am honestly very proud of some of them. Yeah,
it's really great. Some of the things did not surprise me, especially the report that Jason Sanford and Chris Barkley did of the Chengdu debacle. But there was another Chengdu report in the Best Related Works, so I'm curious to read that one too.
Oh god, dueling Chengdu reports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and let's see. Haven't told the kid yet, but Caves of Cud is up for Best Game, and the kid keeps trying to get me to play that, so I'm
What's it called?
Caves of Cud, Qud.
Okay, I will have to look into that. I admit I have been obsessively playing an older game called Dawn of Man, which is basically a city builder in the Paleolithic with mammoths. You don't get to tame the mammoths, which is my great regret.
So kind of like Skyrim.
It's not a first person,
Okay.
It's a builder. So, you control your little Paleolithic people, and,
I was just more thinking of
learn how
wanting to make friends with the
tan hides and
mammoths.
stuff.
You can't make friends with the mammoths.
Yes.
Can't make friends with the giants.
The problem is it's almost a good game, but there are a couple like super glaring points that just turn it into a tedious grind that are very frustrating. So I went looking for other Ice Age or Paleolithic city builders, and this is a very underserved market.
Oh no, you're not going to write a game, are you?
No, I'm way too busy.
Sure?
I tried that once, and I wrote a game. It was set in the Ice Age, and then they took frickin' Story Nexus offline, and I was like, I don't want to do tech support for my own game.
Yeah.
That way lies madness.
Yeah, that was really sad when they took that away.
I was sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a complete derail. Congratulations to everyone.
Yes, congratulations. Friends who've been on the podcast, either this one or my other podcast, include Ursula, obviously. Primi Mohammed is up for 3 Hugos, 2 for fiction and 1 for Escape Pod, which is Valerie Valdez and I co-edit Escape Pod. And Sarah
Which means you're up for one, too.
Yes, it is. But you know how good I am at tooting my own horn. It's difficult. I need to put a button on my stream deck so I don't have to say anything. I just push the button and it'll throw confetti or something. Anyway, let's see, what else? Sarah Pinsker is nominated. Mary Robinette Kowal, who's been on the show, has nominated. Alistair Stewart is nominated twice for zine and fan writer. Gosh. And lots of other people I know, but I tried to keep... I just put out a newsletter like half an hour ago mentioning the change in time of this podcast and the people who you may have seen through my shows who are nominated. But there are lots of other cool people nominated as well. So
I was very proud of John Wiswell, who is a lovely human being whose debut novel is on the best novel. That is badass.
Yeah, very much so. John has done quite well in the shorter categories, and now his first novel just got, boom, put up there for, that's just amazing. Anyway, it's been a while, so let me know what you've been up to, Ursula. You moved out west, and then, there was...
And then life happened.
Yeah.
The world got fire. I mean, it was already burning, but, the oil got dumped on it. I have honestly been mostly working. I have somewhat unwisely agreed to deliver 3 books this year, and then I really want to get the 5th Paladin book out. So that's 4 books that I kind of need to hand in by the end of the year. And so basically my day is get up, work.
In the ditch digging world, this is Ursula being her own backhoe, and usually not recommended.
No, don't do this. I write a lot, but I sat down and did the math of how many words I would have to write a day to actually pull this off. And there was a lot of, well, maybe if I make the one book a novella, and if I get 2 more months on this other book, but one of them is the first tie-in novel that anyone has ever asked me to do, and I was really excited about the prospect. I'm like, yes, of course. It's 100,000 words. I'm like, that would be great. By December. I'm like, how does February sound? But that was everything was fine right up until I agreed to that.
Did you turn it down, or did you agree to December? Or did they agree to February?
They agreed to February.
Okay, well, that's good. Sort of.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's very exciting. Tie-ins are, as everyone who has done them will tell you, frequently frustrating, and you won't get any royalties. You just get, you get the money they pay you up front. But I wanted to do this one just because I was like, you're going to pay me how much to write a novel-length fanfic that then becomes canon?
If it's a property you love, then it's... I have put, Chewbacca using all of Lando's hair products on the Millennium Falcon and trash Star Wars canon. So even though I got my quote-unquote royalty report this week, which shows that I've made about 1/5 of my advance back. And it wasn't a huge advance, but that's how much royalties they're giving me. I've made about 1/5 back since that book came out 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So I almost wish it had just been work for hire, because every time I get a report, it's like, hey, either look how little you sold or look how little we're paying you.
Yeah, it's like, just assume, just in your head, if you do tie-ins, it's work for hire. Yes. And, just let it go and move on.
For we haven't talked about a lot of these more basic terms. If you're new to work for hire, it is writing in somebody else's intellectual property, which means you clear everything with them. They have final say on all edits, and you have no rights to anything at all. They will probably pay you more than an advance that you're making right now. And if, like I said, if you love the IP, then it's going to be fun. But Star Wars was funny because they actually did offer a royalty, only it's so tiny, I'm never going to earn out. So, so work for hire, you got to know what's going on when you walk in there and agree to stuff. So
and this is not a slam. Lots of people have made lots of money doing tie-in novels for ages. Timothy Zahn, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And Terry Brooks has done a bunch of them. Lots of people have done them. It's totally fine. It is a good way to earn money, but do it for the love and the money, and
the money you get right now.
Yeah. The money that is in the check, not that you see in the future.
So one thing I discovered, which really annoyed me, was because you don't get royalties, they don't report just work for hire. They don't tell you how many you've sold. I also did a work for hire Minecraft book a couple of years ago, and I wanted to know how well it sold, but because I don't earn royalties, that is not in my little portal to my publisher, because I don't need to know, because I'm not getting any money. And I'm like, but fragile authors need ego boost. Come on. Yeah. So Ursula's writing all the words. I am, I tried to take time off in March to work on the podcast and get some fiction writing going, which I did the Joko cruise as a shadow cruise attendee, rather a regular attendee, but I did a shadow cruise workshop. And I don't know whether that was successful or not, but I know I worked a lot, almost maybe not as much as I did when I was a performer, but certainly more than I expected considering, the fact that I was paying to be there. But I had a good time, and
that's important.
Yeah, and the family had a really good time, and we made some friends and hung out, and it was a fantastic vacation. The downside was right after we got back, we got sick. Don't know if it was airport or the cruise. It's hard to decide on the cruise because after about 3 or 4 days at sea, you figure whatever's incubating is already incubated. So, I'm not saying we're a sterile petri dish, but, you're much less likely to get sick. But then I guess there were shore excursions and then, as I said, the airport home. But so spent a week after Joko being sick, and then it was the whole I have to catch up from the vacation planned being away and now the unplanned being away. So March did not quite turn out as I hoped it would. I did get 4 seasons of I Should Be Writing up on the paid collections page, which means you don't have to support me via Patreon. You can just go there and buy a season for $3. I would have, there are a couple that I would charge less, but 3 is the minimum. So they're $3. That's what I've been up to. And I was, every once in a while, I this better on my other podcasts, so you should go over there. But not that it's happening live right now. But I get, jealous that I have not achieved more or written more. And then I remember that the only way to do that is to do it. And, it's fun. It's funny. You're talking about you got the hot IP offer. You're going to how many major conventions, and by major I basically mean any podunk convention that's invited you this year, but they're overseas. So how many of those are you guests of honor at this year?
Well, let's see. Luxembourg, Oslo, Warsaw. Then apparently after Warsaw, my UK publisher was like, "You're going to be in Europe. How about you do a book tour in the UK the week after?" And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And my husband, who goes with me to the overseas ones, usually is just like, yeah, I can't do that. So we part in the Amsterdam airport. That I've lost count. And then I think those are the 3 overseas ones. Then Dragon Con, where it has just been announced, I can tell people I'm a literary guest of honor. Woo. And Dragon Con's 5 days. And then Rose City Comic Con. And I'm surely forgetting something. Bubonicon, which I'm not a guest, it's just a little local one I always do. And all of this means that I'm not going to be able to do Worldcon. I really wanted to, but it's somewhere in there I have to actually write a book. Yeah. And it is a dismal amount of travel, compounded by the fact that I still have to fly back to North Carolina for my cancer screenings and my mammograms. So
yay, cancer screenings! I'll get to see you! Hooray!
Yes, we can have dinner. Yes, after I get the boob squishing.
Yeah. Anyway, while I know it's stressful, it also sounds very glamorous. And
well, as we know, I am basically Elizabeth Taylor. Yes, constant glamour. I have to put makeup on in 5 days.
Stay at home and, watch the chickens and write rather than do hardly any of this. But it's
these days I really only do the ones where it's going to someplace I've never been and I'm excited.
Yeah. In feeling bad about myself for not having such an exciting life on that end of the writing career, I remembered that Ursula writes all the time. All the time. Ursula writes, if Ursula is stuck on a book, then she's going to write something else because she's always brewing 4 or 5 books. So I've just, when I feel bad about myself, I'm like, well, did you write as much as Ursula did today? Probably not. And I'm not using you as my "What Would Jesus Do" poster, but I am remembering that the majority of this career is boring and lonely. Let's just be honest. It's boring and lonely. And if you can tolerate the boring and lonely, then hopefully you'll be rewarded on the other side where there's, glamour as glamorous as sci-fi conventions can be. But
no, it was the really wild thing for me is doing so many of the international cons now is that, I mean, I know how it all works. I'm intimately familiar with how publishing and distribution works, but in my brain is still something going, I sit at a computer in my house and write. And I just flew like 18 hours, and there are people here who know I exist. Mm-hmm. Like, that is messed up. It's great. It's fantastic. I love it. But it's like, I'm just like, how does this work again? This makes no sense.
Yep. Seriously. I'm hoping you've kept better close to at the news than I have. I tend to hide.
Why would you wish that on me, Mur? But I mean,
this specific publishing news.
Oh, publishing news.
Yes, because apparently a magazine decided to, as part of their Patreon rewards, give you you either could get published in their magazine, or you got a jump over a level of editorial or something. I don't remember. I just remember a lot of people were mad on social media, but I don't go to social media very often.
If you subscribe to us, we take you out of the slush kind of thing?
I think so. Valerie, do you know what's going on? It was a special submission window. Thank you, Valerie. Yeah. The special submission window if you supported their Patreon, which means money, which is paying to get published, which is a no-no. They're closed for submissions, but if you were a patron, you could submit. So no one could submit unless you paid. Wow.
And to be fair, in our field, pay to publish is a hideous no-no. I think it should be a hideous no-no everywhere. Yeah. But there are many academic and I think many poetry and literary journals where they expect you to pay a submission fee. Mm-hmm. I dislike that enormously, but also, late stage capitalism.
Yeah.
So it's... yeah, I hadn't chased that down. That is interesting. Yeah. I don't really know what to do with that.
Well, I believe enough people yelled on the internet that they discovered it was bad. But,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Why this is bad is money should go towards the author. And what that means is, some people get confused in the world of self-publishing. What that means is, if you give somebody something, you are their customer. So if you hire a cover designer, you are their customer and they make a cover for you. If you hire an editor, they are your editor and they give you the editing and you give them money. For a publisher or a magazine, they need to be getting their money from readers. Because if they get their money from you, why the fuck should they work on selling it anywhere else? They already got their money. So
this is how vanity presses function too, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if you get confused about if you paying to self-publish is money going in the wrong direction, just think about everybody you're paying money to and make sure that it's going in the right direction.
It's a matter of hats. I am the author, I write the book, and someone pays me. When I self-publish, I take off the author hat and I put on the publisher hat. And the publisher pays people. The publisher pays the cover artist and, the editor and the copy editor and the sensitivity reader. That's fine. And then the publisher also pays the author, which is also me, whatever is left over from that. So right. Money always flows towards the author. This is sometimes called Yogg's Law.
Yeah.
But if you are self-published, just be aware that for some things you are the publisher and your money flows out rather than in. So, yeah.
That's a really good way of thinking of it. I'd never heard of that. That's interesting. But apparently people made a lot of noise and they stepped back on it. In other news, people who made a lot of noise just made the person they were angry at dig in and dig and dig and dig until the entire 25-year-old 501(c) nonprofit folded in on itself. And what we're trying to say is R.I.P. NaNoWriMo. Yeah.
There was a lot going on with NaNoWriMo. They did not merely make poor financial decisions. There were other things, but yeah, it seems to have gone the way of all flesh.
I'm very sorry the kids are asleep. I'm very sorry to bring this up. The Kids Are Asleep was a municipal liaison. I said it right that time. Anyway, she was a municipal liaison for decades for NaNoWriMo. a lot of volunteer hours put in. But yeah, essentially, of all the things that went bad, you know, it just look for it online. It's a whole thing. There's like grooming by one of their volunteers of the Young Writers Program, and the way they dealt with that apparently was to torch the Young Writers Forum from space. And so all of these writers who'd like built communities and friendships and everything, it went away. It just went away. And then there was the more stuff they wanted to put on the municipal liaisons, all the volunteers, and the rules that they were required to follow, including English only in their meetups.
Huh?
Yeah, it was an English only. I assume Valerie will correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember the English only thing was weird, especially for other countries, but also, you know, lots of people. They were essentially going to make us entirely liable for anything that went wrong. Yes, exactly. And then I think that the final...
At that point, don't volunteer.
Yeah, like, exactly.
That's, you know, here you get a heap of liability for the chance to work for us.
Yep. And then they partnered with an AI sponsor. And again, all of these things, if they dealt with them on a grown-up level, you know, like responsibility, imagining common sense decisions. Oh yes, background checks for every single volunteer as well.
Which I can understand how they got there after the one thing, but that is a massive amount of like time, money, effort, and yeah. But then they part of this generational AI company, and then when people complained, this is the best part, when people complained, they called their detractors ableist, because disabled people needed the AI tools, and we should not, you know, look down on tools that disabled people use. And so we're being ableist by saying, don't partner with a company that's essentially trying to make us obsolete. And a lot of tools involved.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of tools. So it was just amazing who was in charge of this massive company, a 25-year-old company, because, you know, it's the response was basically sounded like it came from someone whose LiveJournal blew up and got really popular, and then they got put down for writing Raylo fanfic. So, you know, it was all finger pointing, and it's really your fault. And they put out a half-hour video explaining why NaNoWriMo was dying. And I'll admit it, I didn't watch it. I didn't.
Like, I'm going to watch half an hour of anything. No offense to those who are watching this Twitch stream. You are all lovely people and better than me. It's sad because NaNoWriMo was huge. It got a lot of people, you know, big community thing, and it sucks, but I think it's one of those things of like sort of like economies of scale. Only maybe it's the mental economy of scale, which is if you are running a enormous company, 501c, then you can't run it as if it's your LiveJournal.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so in the chat we have The Kids Are Asleep saying, I didn't watch it because I have better things to do with my life, like stare at a wall. And Underpope says their financials were awful after the pandemic, and then the municipal liaisons and volunteers were mean to them. Yeah, I'm just baffled. I'm baffled at maybe it's because I'm too far the other way. I'm a people pleaser, and if anything goes wrong, I assume it's me. I'm pretty sure I had some hand in NaNoWriMo falling down, and, you know, I bet the
it was all that Raylo fanfic you were writing, Mer.
Yes.
Exactly. Incidentally, if anyone gives you shit about writing Raylo fanfic, if you don't happen to NaNoWriMo, the correct response is, fuck you, I'll do it harder with fisting next time. Moving on.
I love Ditch Diggers. So
respectable children's book author.
Anyway, lots of people are talking about other options, and I think the subreddit for NaNoWriMo is the place to go for all of these. They've got like a lot of stuff there, but it's never really gonna be the same.
Well, it's like Blue Sky and Twitter.
Yeah.
I am on Blue Sky because I need something like that, but it's not what Twitter was in its heyday. Yeah. And I miss that sometimes.
Me too. But Twitter at the end was not Twitter in its heyday.
No, it was a nightmarish cesspool in which things burbled and shat. But
burbling and shatting. I think that's going to be the title of this podcast. Burble, shat, and fisting. I'm writing it down. Burble, shat, and fisting. Isn't that a Bible story?
Yes, they were all thrown into the oven as martyrs, and you really just don't want to know what happened next.
Yeah,
It's in the Apocrypha. They expurgated it from the rest. Sorry, that was a Catholic joke for the three of you. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, Valerie says, you're thinking bubble and squeak. You're right. I think
yes.
Yeah. So the agent thing. I have a couple of questions that I wanted to go over, because this is something I have to remember, which is, I know the community of my podcasts and the ones who've been around for like decades now. I have to remember that there will still be someone who does not want to go into the archives of 2017 to try to get an answer. So every once in a while, we're going to go over some basics. So we're going to go over some agent stuff here.
Can you talk about the inciting incident for this?
Yeah, I am a SIFWA mentor, and I mentioned that I've lost count. I'll have to think about it, but I've had over 5 agents in my career. That's almost an agent per book, but it didn't work out that way. And so I said I could answer questions on agents, and so they sent me several. So I figured I could talk about them on, somebody handing me a fresh podcast topic, I'm not going to put it down. So let's see. I'm looking for it. There are many guides out there, such as how to get an agent and how to spot a scam agent. But one thing we don't hear about it is what happens when you have an agent. So how do agents and writers interact and work together? I'll give that one to you, Ursula.
This is going to vary by agent and often by writer. There are agents who once every 6 months you get an email. There are agents who, if you have a manuscript, you send it to them first, and they look at it and ask for, changes or edits and whatnot before they send it to an editor or before they try to shop it. There are agents who you can call on the phone and cry because your book is not working. I don't do that. That just seems like a lot. My relationship with my agent which is only my, relationship, is that we will go a month or two without talking because there's nothing we need to talk about. I'm in the middle of writing the book. And at most I'll get a note that's is it okay to accept Bulgarian foreign rights for this book or something? I'll be like, yes, let's do that. And then I just send the book straight to the editor. I CC my agent, but I don't send it to her first to go through or anything like that. Book pitches, I mostly send to the editor, and my other thing is that I will just write 10, 15,000 words and send it to the agent and be like, can you find someone to finish this? And so there are things that vary. If you feel like contacting your agent is a horrible imposition and you're second guessing yourself, you're not just tossing off an email, you're like, oh God, is it too soon? Am I needy? Okay, well, it's been a month, maybe I should wait 6 weeks. Yeah, that's maybe not the most healthy relationship. This is a person who is a professional who works not really for you, but I mean, it's I don't know, think of the other professionals in your life. Are you angsting that much about calling the plumber or making a doctor's appointment? And
I just realized, yeah. I think the agent is kind of like a dentist, because the dentist works for you, but you're not going to tell the dentist how to do their job. That's just what occurred to me. Or that's
a very good analogy.
Any job where you have to trust somebody else implicitly. You own the yacht, but you're not the captain, kind of thing. So.
And it is okay to switch dentists if the current one is making you miserable.
Yes.
That is not a subtext for agents, although it should be true as well. But seriously, if your dentist is a dick, there are people who aren't, and you don't have to put up with being scolded. If you're an adult, you can just be like, yeah, well, guess what? I didn't have insurance for 10 years, so this is what we're working with. Let's go.
Yeah. I think the thing to remember is that there's no handbook or no guidelines about how agents should be. I mean, there's basic ethics and, you need to be knowledgeable in contracts and you need to know a lot of editors in the industry. But when it comes to, as Ursula said, how often you talk to your clients or the way in which how often you speak to your, no, wait, I just said that. Sorry, my brain just turned off.
How you prep a book.
Yes.
Yeah, all kinds of things.
Agents are all different people. Like, we're all different people. The problem is that you don't really know what you're going to need from an agent until you have one and realize you are not getting what you want. And so you need to think honestly, and I'm using negative terminology here, but please understand that I myself am high maintenance. So if you think that you are nervous and high maintenance and need someone to pat you on the back and say, they're their little writer, and maybe not tell you when Publishers Weekly hated your book, you need to when you talk to an agent, you need to say, these are my emotional needs. It's going to come up. And you need to think about where you want to go with your career, because some agents do books and some agents are interested in into like selling your TV rights and your computer game rights. And,
computer game rights are reasonably rare, but becoming more frequent. Movie rights, yes. Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
also your agent is, the other big function I think of your agent is to be the bad guy to the publisher.
Yes.
They should be the one stepping in between you. If you're like, I am overworked and they're asking me for too much, the agent is the one who steps in and says, time out. Or if they're the one who negotiate the money, because we would all be like, oh my God, you're willing to publish my book. Yeah. Yes, I will take this Bed Bath & Beyond coupon for my advance. And the agent is the one who is like, going, stab me through the heart, will you?
Yeah. And again, do you know why this happens? It's because the agent does not get their money from you either. They get their money from your publisher. They take a cut of that money. So it is in their best interest to get you a large deal. And if they get you, so if you're paying an agent, again, that's not the way things work.
No, do not give money to the agent. And furthermore, the agent should take 15%, and that is the industry standard. Yes. And if they start taking more, get very concerned.
20% for Hollywood rights, because they're usually working with another agency. And
sub-agent
they each get 10%. So that's one outlier moment. What's interesting is you mentioned them saying that, someone calling you and saying, are you cool with this Bulgarian sale? I've never had an agent that told me, actually my current agent does it. Sorry, I've only sold 2 foreign rights since being with my current agent, but they do contact me to tell me. But when a previous agent, I just looked at my bank account and saw that it was not the number it was supposed to be. It wasn't hugely off, but it was like, where did that $1,000 come from? And then later that day, I got the email of a foreign rights sale. I was like, okay, that's a weird order of operations, but cool.
No, mine sends me the because I have to sign a contract for each of them. So I think it's because a lot of it is self-published. And every time they sell foreign rights and self-published, I have to sign an actual contract with the foreign publisher to as the copyright holder, etc. Whereas if one of my books through Tor gets licensed, foreign rights, if it's a book that Tor has foreign rights for, Tor just says, good news, Romania wants 1,000 copies, and so you get $1,000 for Romanian rights, your share is, 35% of gross or whatever.
Oh, okay. So we have a question from chat. Is it wrong to say to your agent, if I'm asking you a question, I should expect a response within 72 hours? Probably on the face, yeah, it's kind of wrong because, again, agents will communicate very quickly. I mean, in different ways. I'm sorry, I've jumped ahead. My agent communicates very quickly, and one time he didn't reply to me that day, and I was worried about him. I was honestly worried. But other times, I've had agents who did not. I fired an agent because he ghosted me for 4 months, and I still didn't get a response from him after firing him. So for all I know, he may think we're still a partner. Probably not. But yeah, so you need to agree in the beginning how the communication should go, how often you should speak, and how quickly you should expect an answer. It's a hard balance because you know that you are their client and they need to pay attention to you. However, you are one of their clients, and you got to remember that you are one of many, and you have to expect them to strike that balance of making you as important as you should be, but maybe not in your eyes because you're the only one there, but reasonably. So
it's gonna vary. Like usually, I expect when I email Helen a question or whatever. Usually, it's same day or the next day. But over a weekend, it wouldn't even occur to me to expect her to do that. And furthermore, I'm not even checking my email because it's the weekend. And every now and again, it'll be like, a couple of weeks. And the thing is that Mur and I are two very different people. Mur is a greyhound who lives on her nerves, and I am a Newfoundland who is catatonic on the floor and resembles a rug. So if my agent doesn't get back to me in a month, I don't notice it hasn't happened. Unless it's an urgent thing like, can you tell me, such and such, I need to know for this thing. I'm drawing a total blank. One that I need a fast response on is, can you give me the contact info of the convention that I am supposed to be flying to so we can arrange, plane tickets or whatever. That's a fast turnaround one. I expect that, within the week, certainly. But if it's just like, I'm sitting here writing a book and we both know when the book is due, like, we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
I know when it's due. You know when it's due. I'm not going to email you at random and be like, hey, I'm an author.
Okay. In my defense, I'm not that much of a greyhound. I don't need that kind of validation.
No, I'm not saying you've done that. Okay. But the thing is that you actually pay attention to how long it takes for someone to get back to you. And I would never notice in a million years. So I don't know if 72 hours is normal because I've never timed it.
Yeah.
I remember one time I got a email that was like, I owe you an email for March. And I'm like, really? Okay, cool. Let me know how that works out.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a huge am I the asshole moment when it's public now. I'm writing a fantasy for Ace, and it's been announced in Publishers Weekly. I've mentioned it several times, but now it's actually been announced.
The agent also is great because they are a contact point for a lot of things. Other publishers, if you get to a point where publishers are like wanting your stuff, they will talk to the agents and not you, which is nice because then you don't automatically agree to, write a book for someone just because you're Star Trek that anyone wants you. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience or anything. Okay, well, anyway, they do advice like occasionally, I will get a note that says, I suggest we go with this deal, or it'll be if it's like some of my back catalog when the front catalog started to do well. Some editors in the UK wanted to license my back catalog because I would do it in the UK but not the US. And so we wound up with like Titan and Orbit UK and Tor UK all saying, hey, what can we have? And my agent is the one who sets up all of the meetings and the Zoom calls. And then afterwards is like, they seemed nice, but I want to see what they can do with this, or they are not moving fast enough. And I have told them, you guys got to move quicker because I have an offer on the table here and things like that. So they are the cold business end of the knife. Your agent should fundamentally be a barracuda in a suit. And mine is, she hides it well and, seems sort of abstracted, and then will come back with something like, they wanted foreign rights for this book automatically. Why don't they just come into my house and take my TV too? Which is something she yelled over the phone once. Incidentally, they did not get foreign rights on that.
Surprise.
Yeah.
So thank you, Crystal Breyer, for mentioning I do not believe Mur is ever the asshole in the chat, because that reminded me what I was trying to go with the post-book. Sure. What happened was we did the deal, and it took a while to get the contract, and then I was hoping to get the money for last year's taxes and for the holidays, and they weren't happening, and it still wasn't coming, and so I sent my agent a very polite message going, hey, where's that money, dude, only a lot more polite. And then the minute after I hit send and the minute after the Gmail undo button went away is when I remembered my agent lives in LA, not New York. And LA was kind of going through some shit at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had to immediately just like send him oh crap, I forgot you were in LA. I hope you're safe. I hope your family's safe. He was very gracious, and yes, he and his family were safe. But that was my moment of, I was trying to stand up for myself and say, hey, agent, what's going on here? And then like, oh no. So
there's nowhere
when you're running from fire, you don't need to respond to me very quickly. We have another question. How much creative control does the author have, and what happens with if the author disagrees with what the agent wants? You have 100% control. It's the agent will, give you advice, and
it may be like an editor where they're like, you can do that, and if so, I'm not able to pitch this or sell this.
Yeah, if they really, really don't believe in it, they'll just not sell it, and you could sell it yourself, or you could self-publish it or whatever. But they don't get to tell you what you should do if it's not what you want to do. You should, and this is another balance. It's like, on one hand, you're the only one who knows how your book should go, but you're trying to sell it, which is what your agent is the expert at. So if your agent says, this may not work, you could take your ball and go home, or you could consider it. Or get a new agent. I mean, I know people who've done that too. I
have had books that my agent could not sell, and I eventually said, "Can I just self-publish this?" And she was like, "That was a great idea. When tag me when you want the audiobook and the foreign rights dealt with."
Yeah, that's one of the awesome things about internet stuff, which is you can self-publish, and yeah, your agent's not involved because they're not getting you a publishing deal, but you can't publish your own foreign rights. You can't, I suppose if you could get a translation of your book and publish it on Amazon in another country, that's about as far as you can go. But, audio.
Foreign rights are like a whole nother podcast, yeah.
Hey, Will, it's good to see you. I had an agent offer me representation, but only wanted me to concentrate on YA for the first few years, and then maybe I could move to an adult. So, yeah, that's, if you don't want to write that, then you should not. That's not the deal you should take. And I'm assuming, since you said they offered you representation and not my agent said this when we agreed to work together, that you said no, which was the right thing to do. Another thing you want to think about is, and it's hard as a beginning writer. I have trouble now, but sometimes thinking like, where do you want to be once you get your feet under you with a career? Do you want to go to YA? Do you want to go to a different genre? Do you want to write comic books? Do you want to write scripts? Your agent needs to know this, because if they have the connections to get you that, if you want a specific IP, I don't think anybody could ever write for Star Wars if their agent does not know the Star Wars editor, because that's pretty much handpicked. So
I was very surprised that the one tie-in came through, because I was like, I didn't think you knew any tie-in people.
Mm-hmm. Well, they probably contacted her.
Yeah, they did. But where your agent is plugged into the ecosystem of the genre is very important.
Will says, I said no, it was very hard to walk away. I'm proud of you, man. I really am, because I know it's hard.
You rock, dude.
It's like I have agreed to work with agents with having that little feeling in my gut going, really? Is this going to work? Really? But nobody else wants me, so maybe I'll just go with you to the dance. And then, they show up on a bicycle and want you to pay for McDonald's for dinner. And it's like, this is not a date. That was it. And, my metaphor falls apart here, but it slows your career down being with the wrong agent. It's not better than no agent, really. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the thing.
No, you're looking at questions. It's all good. But yes, I agree. Bad agent, worse than no agent. I have a good agent, however. I've been with the same agent for, nearly 20 years, so...
Wow, it was 2007, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, 2006, because the book didn't sell until 2007. So, yeah, 18 years. And it's been great, but many other people do not have that luxury. And I will say my agent did not know people was not a sci-fi agent by any stretch, or fantasy. And I basically, at one point, we got into this because I was like, oh, Tor has an open submission period for novellas. I have a novella. I should send that. And then I thought, wait, I don't have to wait for the open submission. I actually have an agent. Helen, can you send this? And she's like, yeah, that's what I'm for. Yes.
Yeah.
She didn't know the people at Tor, but had done very well making those connections and glad handing, and also has a very fundamental understanding because of, being in the industry, of what editors are like and what is an acceptable turnaround, things like that. So,
right.
yeah.
Right. Underpope wants to know, how do you know when it's the right agent? And lots of interrobangs there. You need to go...
How do you know when you should marry somebody?
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I've heard some people say they don't like the comparison to a marriage, but it's a lot like a marriage in that, especially in the fact that you're not
trusting a lot to the personality of another person.
Yeah, but you're also supposed to not go hunting for your next while you're still with your current spouse. So you're not supposed to do that with agents either. What you want to do is you think about what you want, and you can ask me or the right questions to ask, and I'm sure you can find things online that'll tell you, ask this when you talk to a possible agent.
You can ask to talk to the agent's other clients.
Yes.
And if you can straight up ask the agent, do you have some other clients I can talk to? And which might feel weird, but you can if you want to. And if your agent is like, no, I'm not saying it's an absolute deal breaker, but look long and hard at that.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Yeah. So you want to go in saying, knowing what you want. And when you do that, it'll be a lot easier for you to find the right agent. Okay. So, when you don't know anything, it's exciting to talk to an agent. But once you decide what you want, where you want your career to go, etc., then it's easier to get a sense of what's going to work for you and with you. And don't try to
It is okay to put some of this in your query letter too, for the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it is, the agent is also, taking a chance on you, and they will want to know if what you expect is what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I was lucky because my agent actually did over the pandemic, he and another agent had a YouTube series. I think it was called Ask an Agent. And so I watched their series to find out how they work, because they just said, they said so right there. Anyway, my mentee has a lot of questions with a lot of parentheticals. It's like they really matched us very well, because that's how I talk when I'm writing things all the time.
Oh, man, the outline, because they needed an outline for the tie-in, and some of the things I said in there were just like, hey, and then thing happens. No idea what. We'll find out when we get there. Mm-hmm. And things like that. It's, yeah.
And they accepted it?
Well, they've got it. I mean, literally at one point it says, I'm not good at writing outlines.
Okay. That's fair. I should probably start doing that as well. Oh, ad should be over in a couple of seconds.
Woo.
All right. In theory, the ad is over. But we've been going for a while, so we should probably wrap it up anyway.
Any last agent questions to field before we...
Yeah, if you guys have any last agent questions, let us know. My agent series was like a Monty Python sketch, whereas I signed with somebody who had another podcast author as his client, and then he realized he doesn't rep my stuff, and so he's the one who ghosted me for 4 months, so I fired him. The next agent I had, I wrote the thing I wanted to sell. I rewrote it twice, like as a young adult and then as a new adult and then back as an adult. That's 3 times. And then I was going to fire her, but she fired me first. And then the third one quit being an agent and passed me up to her boss, who again was someone who did not sell science fiction. And so now we're like well into the teens, and she's trying to get me to rewrite the thing that I wrote for the agent number 2 years before. And I said, you realize you had multiple agents tried to sell this? And she's like, yeah, but that was a long time ago, and I'm selling it now. And I just said, are you interested in anything I'm writing right now? And she said no. And I said, all right, well, we're going to have an amicable breakup now. And I had finally met an agent in person at Worldcon, and that was Jen Udden, and I signed with her, and that was great for several years, and she kind of started my career as it is, and then she stopped being an agent as well, and that's when I got Seth Fishman, my current agent, and Jen is back being an agent, and I recommend anybody to submit to her because she's fabulous. Did Ursula do the Native Yard update yet? Did I miss the latest Andrew the Plant Guy news?
No, he couldn't do anything for a bit because of the snow storm that we had. He will be back tomorrow, and we are laying out beds, and he has been patiently staking down weed fabric. And tomorrow, it's very exciting, the 10 tons of fine, they're called crusher fines, they're basically like big sand that you can use for paths, just got dumped in the driveway. And his job will be spreading that on the paths deep enough to not have weeds. But yes, we have planted some Apache plume and some yuccas. It's very cool.
Congratulations.
I'm excited.
So yeah, that's my agent talk. Be sure you're making the right decision for you. Ursula, in the meantime, let's talk about your new book, because I don't even think we've done a podcast since your new book got released.
Oh, well, it's not a new book. There was a re-release of Sword Heart.
Considering it hit the New York Times bestseller list, I think it was new enough for a lot of people.
Yes, it was. Tor did a very shiny hardcover edition, and it was kind of an interesting deal because they have recently launched a new fantasy romance line, and they were all, please give us your fantasy romance back catalog, we will give you money. And I said no, which was hard because it was a lot of money, but the small press that did the physical versions of all of those has been with me forever, and I don't want to screw them over because they make a good chunk of money on the things that they publish for me. So I talked to him. We worked out that Sword Heart was not a big chunk of their income. And so we sold it to Tor, and they bought the next two in the trilogy, which I had been meaning to write and, had been getting distracted and dicking around. There was a pandemic and things.
So, cancer and cross-country move.
Oh, right, I had cancer. And so the thing that I have been working on for the last few months is actually the sequel to Sword Heart, which should be out next year. But anyway, the re-release went fabulous. It's a very pretty edition, and it, for 1 week, hit number 5 on the New York Times bestseller list. And Lindsay, my editor, called me, and I was actually plant shopping, and she was like, "You have heard of the New York Times bestseller list?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "You were at number 5. And I said, "What?" And then giggled a bit, and then bought, I don't even know what plants I bought. I was just kind of like randomly pointing and saying, "Put that in the car." So I have a couple of prickly pears that I'm not quite sure where to put now. But yeah, it was a thing. But it did great. The next big release is Hemlock and Silver, which I think comes out in August, which is a standalone fantasy thingy.
Okay. Yeah, I love it when you get good news and you're shop for Flora. It's always a good story, because that's not the first story you've told me of going shopping and then hearing about it, some sort of deal or good news.
Well, the problem is that my brain just shuts down, and I come home with like yuccas that aren't even hardy in my zone or something. And yeah. And
you can pre-order Infinite Archive right now. It is coming out July 1st. It is a space murder mystery, and it's got a lot of cats in it. A lot of cats. And I hear people like cats, so hopefully that'll give it a little boost. But if you like space murder...
My book also has a cat.
Awesome.
It is clearly the year of cats in books.
Yes.
Unlike all the other years.
Yes. But you can find out more about me at Merverse.com, which is where you can find the blog and the show notes for this show and the transcript for this show, which I'm trying to start doing a little bit more responsibly. And, if Mer's not scatterbrained and Ursula's not overseas, we'll hopefully see you guys in 2 weeks. Right, Ursula?
Absolutely.
Where do we find you online?
Actually, you probably... Wait, no. I leave this Wednesday. I get back next one. Yeah, okay, 2 weeks. I am on Blue Skies, T. Kingfisher, or you can just go to redwombatstudio.com. TKingfisher.com should divert you there. It has links to all of my books. I even updated it the other day because...
Wow.
there had been a mix-up with my SSRI, and I was like super bored and restless. But so I updated my website. it doesn't have pre-order for the new book coming out because as soon as you update something, it's already obsolete. But I at least got that far.
All right. This podcast was produced under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives License. Music provided by Devo Spice, devospice.com.
Ditch Diggers!
This is a free podcast brought to you by the kindness of our patrons. If you would like to also be kind and a patron, go to patreon.com/mightymur. And so, where did my camera go? What the hell?
I'm not sure.
Why?
As the only visual person, I will now do my Muppet dance.